So a few days ago, I made a video talking about Prismatic Evolutions sealed product prices and how they were skyrocketing. Now I am going to be doing an overview of a few Prismatic Evolutions products to show you guys what has recently been happening. I'll talk about the investability at its current price point for those products. But more interesting in this video, I want to show you guys some data with the PSA 10s of the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions compared to the Umbreon VMAX alternate art from Evolving Skies. I want to show you guys the PSA 10 numbers, the differences. It's quite crazy when you actually look at the numbers of the PSA 10s of the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions compared to the Evolving Skies Umbreon VMAX alternate art. Now, I always want to preface whenever I compare something with, Prismatic Evolutions and Evolving Skies that I do understand these two sets are not exactly the same. Prismatic Evolutions is a specialty set, Evolving Skies is a main set, and just that alone, they're very hard to compare. But both sets do have like some evolutions. Obviously, Prismatic Evolutions is more evolution focused, but Prismatic Evolutions and Evolving Skies, both of the top chase cards are both Umbreons. So it's not an apples to apples comparison, but honestly, it seems like how the numbers are with Prismatic Evolutions with how it's been performing, and you will see the PSA 10 numbers. Maybe in some future, we will maybe see in Evolving Skies like growth with this set, but who knows? But I just want to show you guys this data. It's very interesting to sort of see Prismatic Evolutions, the PSA 10 numbers for the Umbreon. It's pretty wild when you actually look at it. So let's just first look at the sealed product. Now I just want to first show you guys that Prismatic Evolutions, the total set value right now is at $4,450. It's gone up a little bit. I remember at one point I checked, it was at $4,200. Now a big reason why this number has been moving is because the Umbreon has moved up a little bit. I think at one point it was in the low 800s, and now it's coming back, and you will actually see on TCG Player, prices have rebounded very quickly for the Umbreon. It, like I said, hit lows of 800, and now it's gone up quite a bit more than what it actually shows here. Now, let's just look at a few of the sealed products. So the Elite Trainer box, at one point about 3 weeks ago, was $95. I've been telling you guys, you know, when it was $95, that was like the most obvious buy. I was telling you guys, buy locally, from the unfortunate evil scalpers. You can get good deals, right, from all these restocks, reprints, whatever you want to call them, that we've been getting from Sam's Club, Costco. That is your opportunity. Locally, you can find them for 80, 90, even $100, and you're saving on sales tax. It's the most obvious thing ever. Prices have moved up literally within a month, and if you still haven't bought until this point, I am still going to say it. At this price point, it is still a very good investment, because long term, $20, $30 difference is not going to be a big deal. So even now today at this price point, I'm saying it here, it is a good deal. Now I've gotten to the point where locally, because I picked up at this point, I don't even know how many locally. It is impossible to find them locally now in a higher quantity than one or two. Literally, it's just not existent anymore, because all the evil scalpers, they all sold out. No one around me within like an hour or two radius is selling them in a larger quantity than one or two. So I am probably going to resort to going on eBay. If I can find ETBs, let's say for 110, 115, I'm probably just going to end up buying a few here and there, because I still want to get a little bit more. I'm not quite satisfied with the amount I have. And just based on how the performance has been with Prismatic Evolutions, I don't want to wait much longer to buy. So like I said, I'm going to personally be buying probably some on eBay, and that's going to be my sort of strategy, because I can't really source them locally from any evil scalper. So that's what I'm going to do. So therefore, it should tell you something. I think this is still a fine buy. Now, when you actually take a look at the sellers, right, and you actually see, how expensive these boxes have gotten at 125 right now. It's a little bit more actually. So it says 125 like lowest listed. There's just one seller here, but when you move past a few of these other sellers that aren't like Gold Star or whatever, and you go here, you can actually see these boxes are more closer to $130. So yeah, this is more like a $130 ETB at this point, because I'm pretty sure there's been sales at 130, like one right here, one sold for this much. I don't know why. But yeah, this is more of like a $130 Elite Trainer box at this point. So they have gone up quite considerably. When you actually look that at one point less than a month ago, these were at $95. So it is what it is. If you missed out and now you've just come to the conclusion that, okay, yeah, I missed the easy, sort of buy. I wouldn't wait, to be honest. I'd buy something, even if you're still cautious about, reprints or whatever. I think, buying a few boxes really would not hurt. And personally, with me, I've bought a lot when they were $80 to $95. I could find them locally. But now, market has moved much faster than I thought, and I'm going to have to switch it up and just start buying online. Now, PC ETBs are still sitting at around $400, $415. At this price point, I've told you guys, yeah, the easy money has kind of been made because, you could have bought these for like $200 a few months ago. But it's the same thing with the normal ETB. If you missed the easy buy and you've waited until now for whatever reason, it's still not a bad investment. I mean, if 151 PC ETBs can be $400 if you really think about it in a couple years, it's not going to be a bad investment. So it's not bad, but it just kind of sucks because it's literally doubled in price in the past few months. Now the booster bundle, I think from these reprints we've gotten recently from, I know Walmart did like a huge drop. It would be a very good buy. Locally, I've been able to find them for around $50, and if you can buy them for that price, that you're paying like $8 and some change for each pack. And booster bundles, we have a lot of evidence now that they perform extremely well. They're a very sought after product, and therefore Prismatic Evolutions, we just got a reprint. You can see a few weeks ago, and sales volume has been extremely high. I would take advantage if you can't find any ETBs, PCTBs locally for anything off of like market price, or you can't find them in a large quantity. Booster bundles you should probably be able to find in a somewhat large quantity because they just got reprinted. The evil scalpers bought them, and if you can find them in large quantity for 50 or under, I think you're doing very, very good. Now, here's the part of the video where it gets interesting. So I'm going to show you guys the PSA 10 pop numbers, and it's shocking how different it is with Prismatic Evolutions and Evolving Skies. So first, I want to show you guys the raw card. The raw card in the past few days, you can see a huge increase in sales volume, and the lowest listed near mint card is now $1,500. Guys, this is basically exactly how much it was at release. If we go back, we can go maybe to the year chart or even 6 months ago, which is somewhat accurate, or we can go here. It was 1,600, but 6 months ago, it was 1,400. So this is basically back to where it was in the beginning. That's where this card is at right now. Obviously, there's been, no exact sales at this price, but recent sales have been pretty close. So we are getting back up to this part of Prismatic Evolutions. This was during the craziness, the hype. That's where the numbers are now with Prismatic Evolutions for the Umbreon EX. But this is not the main thing I want to talk about. It's more the PSA 10 numbers I actually want to talk about. So if we look at the PSA 10 price, it's gone crazy. In the past month, you can see it was $2,500. Now it's selling for $4,000. If you go to eBay, you can see it's really selling for a little bit above $4,000. So it's almost doubled in just a month. But even besides all these price points I'm showing you guys here, I want to just show you guys the PSA 10 numbers with the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions. You can see here, there's some really crazy numbers here that it says something about this set. Obviously, when I'm comparing this to the Umbreon from Evolving Skies, you can argue, oh, the Evolving Skies artwork of the Umbreon is way better than this one, okay, but this is still a very popular card. And looking at this number right here, you can see the PSA 10 there's 2,896 of them, but compared to the PSA 9, there's 4,592 of them. You see how hard it is to get a 10, right? There's not many in a 10 compared to the 9, and it shows that getting a PSA 10 is pretty hard, right? And when you look at the Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies, you will see how drastic this number actually is comparatively, because the PSA 10 number is much lower than the 9. Now, when you actually do the math, so what I've done here is, this is the PSA 10 population right here, and what I've done is just taken the PSA 10 number, added the PSA 9 number, and divided that, and you can see, out of the PSA 10 and PSA 9 pop, only 39%, if you round up, is actually a PSA 10. So that's honestly not that high, because you will see with Evolving Skies, the Umbreon VMAX, it is much higher. Now, the Umbreon VMAX right now has gone up quite a bit. There hasn't been that many sales, but you can see most recent one was at $2,000. Now, I don't know if this is, you can say market manipulation or whatever, but this card is absolutely going crazy. Now, if you look at the PSA 10 price for the Umbreon VMAX, you can see here they're selling for almost just about as much as the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions, yet the raw card is actually worth about double the one from Prismatic Evolutions, which is very weird. You can see here the PSA 10s, they're selling for about $4,000, and like I just showed you here, these are selling for about $4,000, yet the actual raw card is worth double. Very strange, but you could argue that the Umbreon EX, the population is much lower than what you're going to see here with the Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies. But here's the big thing I want to show you guys. Look at these numbers. There are a significantly significantly larger amount of PSA 10s of the Umbreon VMAX than the PSA 9s. Just look at this number, right? And look at this number. There is something going on here. The Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions has significantly less PSA 10s than 9s, but is actually the polar opposite with Evolving Skies. Now, like I said, you can argue people may like the Umbreon VMAX artwork better than the Prismatic Evolutions one. Therefore, maybe even though the PSA 10s it's a higher amount, then maybe it has that much more demand, where it makes sense that it's still going to be maybe more expensive than the Prismatic Evolutions one. You can argue that maybe this one has more demand than the Umbreon one, but when you really just look at this number, I mean, it is quite crazy to see. And doing the math, doing the same thing like I did with the Prismatic Evolutions Umbreon EX, what I did was divide the PSA 10 population by the total of PSA 10s and PSA 9s. And when you do that math, 79%, if you round up, of the PSA 10 plus the PSA 9 pop numbers, 79% of them are PSA 10s. And you compare that to the Evolving Skies number, it's about double the amount, which is kind of crazy. So, what am I trying to get at here? If Prismatic Evolutions and the Umbreon continues to grow in the popularity, because obviously there's some people that don't like the artwork, there's some people complain about, just, I don't know, some people just complain about the artwork, some people just don't like Prismatic for whatever reason. But when you actually look at these population numbers, and you look at how drastically lower the PSA 10 number is compared to Evolving Skies, guys, if Prismatic Evolutions, I mean, I think it's obvious, but when it goes out of print, what are these numbers going to do? What are these PSA 10, cards going to do? It's crazy to me that there's this big of a difference with the PSA 9s and the PSA 10s, especially when you're comparing it to this. It's wild how crazy the difference is. And it just shows how much harder it is to get a 10. And what do we know about scarcity? It drives prices. And like I said, the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions, some people don't like it. I personally think it looks pretty cool. I think it's going to be one of those things where once it gets older, once it gets out of print, people are going to look at it in a different way. And when we're seeing that the PSA 10 number is so much harder to hit, this card in the future, I mean, it's already extremely expensive. It may go crazy. And I think this is a huge indication for sealed product, that if it's possible that in the future, I mean, even a $4,000 PSA 10 is already crazy, but in the future, if it's still just as hard to hit a PSA 10 Umbreon EX, you could think about the sealed product, the people chasing to pull that card and pull it and get a 10. Because if, let's say, theoretically, a PSA 10 card is worth $10,000 for the Umbreon, people may be more enticed to open up Prismatic Evolutions at higher prices because, the people that want to take that chance, it's more worth it. So this is a huge thing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start to the PSA 10 numbers. And I was astonished by the difference in numbers. So I just wanted to show you guys this. I think this is very interesting data. And like I said, you can argue the Umbreon VMAX is more iconic, more people like it. That's an argument to be made. But the difference between PSA 10s and the PSA 9s with this and this, it's so drastic. So that's all I want to show you guys here. That the Umbreon EX for Prismatic Evolutions is pretty hard to get at a 10. And I feel like in the future, I mean, still the prices we are seeing is ridiculous, $4,000. But, you know, if the raw card right now, we're seeing it's at 1,500, right? It's just hit like 1,500. I mean, it's like, where could this go is what I'm thinking. Because, I mean, like I showed you, the Umbreon VMAX is 2 grand, but it's the exact same price in a PSA 10, or actually it's a little bit cheaper compared to the Prismatic one. If this raw card ever runs up to like 2 grand or so, what is the PSA 10 price going to be? It's some interesting things to think about, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.